Welcome back to Movie Talk. On today's show, we are talking about the release plan for The Irishman, not going nationwide after all. And then after that, we're talking Disney Plus again because, hey, surprise, surprise, there's going to be no R-rated content over there. Is anyone surprised? Probably not, but this does open up the door to some major possibilities for competing streaming services out there. And I get to talk about all of that with Haley Fouch, who you know and love, but right now we have a very important introduction to make. This right here is our good buddy, Matt Donato. Matt has made the trek from New York to LA, so
well, I live here now,
that's a pace that better be gracing that set. You have to come back in now. Often.
Well, invite me. I hope I just don't screw this
Okay.
up royally.
Only
My first time. Like, let's get through one show.
You got to keep the t-shirt hype up every single time.
I guarantee you I will outdo myself in the t-shirt if you keep inviting me back.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
Return of the Living Dead for the people that need to.
You got the Collider's colors going. I feel like you're off to a really strong start.
I walked in, I was like, I didn't want to brand too hard, but apparently I did.
No, you did. I'm the only one who didn't get the branding memo today.
I had to remind myself what shirt I was wearing. Like 95% of my life, I'm not wearing a Jurassic Park shirt. How you doing, Haley?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. We've been piling up the It Chapter 2 content, haven't we?
Yeah, I've been in a real It bubble.
Yep.
So it should be interesting to talk about other movies. Are there other movies?
There are other movies that exist, but I can't wait to pop that bubble and at least unleash the flood of content we have coming
Should've
your way.
been a
If that
balloon.
makes
You should've
any
popped
sense
the
at all.
balloon.
Yeah, I
to
know.
stay
We
thematic.
made a huge
Balloon.
mistake.
I don't know.
come on.
Whatever. My brain's not working, but hopefully it will in a minute because we're going to jump into topic number 1 right now. IndieWire is reporting that Netflix could not convince major theater chains to budge for the new Martin Scorsese movie, The Irishman. The theater chains were worried about opening up the floodgates of abbreviated releases, and so The Irishman will be in indie theaters for 3 weeks only. Per IndieWire, on November 1st, it's going to open in Los Angeles and New York, followed by a platform release in the US and the UK November 8th, adding more theaters each weekend on November 15th and November 22nd. When it premieres on Netflix, November 27th, it will see an expanded theatrical release in the US and international markets. So we were talking about this topic a few movie talks ago. The hope was to give it a nationwide release, as many traditional movie studios give to their movies. And we thought that because it's Martin Scorsese, Netflix was going to make it work one way or the other. It turns out it's not the case. So who would you say is the loser in this situation? Is it Netflix for not getting the nationwide release, or is it the theater chains for not screening an epic Martin Scorsese movie?
I will start here and I will say it is the theaters 100% because everyone that they've lost to streaming at this point probably isn't coming back. And especially for a Scorsese film, that is such a big deal. Like, we're not talking about one of their indies that they produce to throw on a screen somewhere. We're talking about a massive major motion picture that needs to be screened on a big screen, and you're still going to get Scorsese fans coming out to see it. I don't care if they have a Netflix subscription, they're still going to want to see it and preserve the cinematic quality on screen, and those are the watchers that you have to cater to. You don't want to lose them because you've already lost a lot of the masses to Netflix and subscription services. Now you still have to play to the fans that you're still going to retain.
So I have a follow-up question for you, because one of the issues the last time we covered the story is that theater chains were concerned that this could be the tipping point for theatrical releasing, that if they make an exception for Netflix right now, then who knows, in the future, traditional studios like Disney and Universal, they're going to want smaller windows too. So when you take that into account, does your answer stay the same?
But is that not also the future? I mean, everything evolves. This is the issue. They're trying to fight streaming right now, and streaming is not killing cinema. It's how you adapt. The cinematic experience is still thriving in other areas. So for theaters chains like AMC that are seeing declining sales, maybe not because of what's streaming, maybe because you don't want to pay $5 for a bottle of water, maybe because in New York City when I went to a midnight screening, like there were like homeless people in the front row that were just kind of like laying there, and you know, this experience itself is what I'm paying for to see a movie. And streaming is not killing that, it's just offering something different. So look at the Alamo, which is expanding. Alamo Drafthouse Cinemas. Every other month, I feel like they're opening a new cinema somewhere else because they figured out how to make it work. Good food, an atmosphere that movie lovers can actually go to and enjoy a movie in that realm. And also it's run by people who love movies. So you're now attracting audiences and expanding while AMC is going down the drain. So that kind of, it hits that argument right off the table.
Are you on the same side of the divide, Haley?
Similarly, I've talked about Alamo before and how they're sort of beating the game a little bit. In addition to what you said about the experience and the atmosphere, it's also they've built community, which I think is sort of the path forward for theaters, since it is the whole crux of going to a theater is the communal experience. But I would also say, yes, theaters probably are in this circumstance the ones taking the hit. However, that fight for the window is like the fight they've been waging for a few years now to preserve windows. And I understand it's sort of one of their last big battles left to have, but I also think that Matt is right in that it's almost like that fight is almost over. Like it is the future. Windows are going to shrink. I remember interviewing Jason Blum about this last year, and he was like, yeah, it's just a matter of time. Like, we're all trying to fight it as hard as we can, but absolutely, it's just going to happen one day.
I just wonder it feels like there could be another battle to fight to preserve their business, because I kind of agree with you. I mean, we're at that tipping point. There's no turning back. They have to accommodate each other, and there's no other way to look at it. But bringing up some of the points that you just made, Matt, what about just the theater experience? Figure out something to bring the price down with concession stand items. Take down the price of movie tickets in general. Is there anything else that the theater chains could do other than trying to figure out the release window thing in order to keep business alive and thriving?
The tricky thing about like pricing on water, popcorn, all that is that most of the ticket sales, like a significant amount of money goes directly back to the studio. So that's how the theaters actually stay alive, is by selling their merchandise, their foods and goods. But again, I do think that tips back into Matt's point, which is make the food really good.
Make it better.
Make it a great experience to partake of that food and the drinks and the milkshakes and all the good stuff that you want to have, that you go specifically, you're like, oh, I'm going to Alamo, I'm getting a milkshake, like you do. So
and a cookie sampler.
And a cookie sampler. I'm just got to get the whole order right. It's a tricky thing, and I understand like the desire to preserve those windows they're significantly valuable, and I think that maybe there's something to that. Irishman wasn't necessarily the one to break that for, because as much as we love Scorsese, that's not going to generate enough money for them probably in terms of ticket sales to justify breaking that this time. Yeah. Maybe if it was like, I don't know, something on par of a Disney release.
But it's still Scorsese. It's still a loaded cast of veterans that a lot of people would turn up to see. And it's a lot of those people, too, might not have streaming subscriptions if you're looking at the older generations. So now you've just lost out on a big market demographic just because of this window thing. And also, going back to the Alamos and that nature, I mean, it's just business. At a certain point, it becomes just business. And as someone who loves movies, obviously, I would love to say it's about the experience and keeping that and retaining that. It's business, and you look at the Alamo, which is expanding tremendously. I mean, I left New York with the Brooklyn Alamo. They're already building one in Manhattan. One is coming to Staten Island. So they're not only invading markets that are like off the radar, and it's like, oh, you have to drive out of nowhere to get an Alamo. Like, no, Alamo is getting everywhere. They just opened LA, and there's a reason that they are thriving. Just like there is a reason why AMC is failing. And AMC resisting that future even more is just going to doom them. And not even AMC, like AMC, Regal, all the big ones that are all showing decline. Resistance is not how you actually run a business.
So bringing up the money question now, we've got a question from the live chat from Thelonious, who's asking, with the budget for The Irishman pushing $200 million and most people seeing it on Netflix, how profitable can it be? I feel like the last number that I saw, and granted, these are all reported production budgets, we don't have an official number, was something like it's over 160. So I mean, really, I wouldn't be surprised if with all the digital effects they've done, it's come anywhere close to 200 million. But I think the last number I've seen reported is just above 160.
Well, that's another tricky thing about Netflix in terms of how they're disrupting. What does profitable mean to Netflix? We don't know. We don't know their numbers. They won't tell us. That's their prerogative.
They could be operating at a loss and we wouldn't even know.
There's no way they're not half the time.
Exactly,
I mean, there's no way.
Well, I want those numbers
look at the
so badly.
Yeah, but look at how many people subscribe, how many people are paying $10, $20. Do that math. Like, they have an insane profitability, but how many billion are they spending on original content too? So it's like, you never want to be first to a market. And I keep coming back to business. I'm sorry, this is movie talk, and I keep coming back to business things, but that's my daily life.
It's part of the game.
You don't want to be first to a market because number one, you get that success and you skyrocket, and that's Netflix. And like, they figured it out first. Now everyone else is figuring it out. And Netflix is just going to keep doing this because they're holding on to content. They want to keep that originality content, and they're just churning and burning while everyone else now is. And we'll get to that later. Maybe I'm jumping the gun here when we talk about Disney. But I feel like Netflix is kind of like, I don't know. I'll save that for after.
They're going to have a hard time soon.
Yeah.
I think we are in agreement on that. There's some real rude awakenings coming their way.
I think that was my biggest takeaway from the Disney Plus panel. Yeah. It's just, we report on project after project after they're announced. It was a completely different thing seeing everything up on one screen, everything up on one stage. And they really do have content for everyone, for Star Wars fans, for Marvel fans, for super young kids looking for new cartoons and other kid-friendly material like animated, live act. They have everything. They have a Jeff Goldblum show. I mean, I don't know how you compete with that, but we're going to discuss that further in story number 2 today, which of course is no R-rated content on Disney+. But before we get there, you have to watch some brand new Collider content coming your way soon, like Heroes. Here's a promo from Coy.
Hi, I'm Coy Jandro, host of Collider Heroes, and I'm here to tell you we've got 20-minute episodes coming at you on Collider Video on the YouTube as you've always loved it. Plus, now we've got hour-long podcasts dropping every Thursday, so make sure to subscribe to the podcast because it's going to get even more sweaty on the podcast. Plus, every week, we're going to try to get some very special guest interviews, all of the people that help shape these movies and TV shows you love. So, video, podcast, interviews, all coming at you. Be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much, guys. Stay sweaty.
In addition to Heroes, there are so many shows up on the Collider Weekly podcast feed right now, all well worth listening to. We have Dave Trumbore's animation show. We, of course, have the Collider.com podcast with Matt Goldberg and Adam Chitwood. And then on top of that, we've got the Snyder Cut, which, of course, is Jeff Snyder's show. Check that out. Listen to that on Podcast One, wherever you get your podcast. Great content across the board. All right. Moving over to Disney Plus now. According to some tweets from entertainment reporter Eric Vespi, Disney Plus will not include R-rated content. While he was at D23, apparently he stopped by a Disney Plus demo, and here's what he tweeted from the convention. I asked about R-rated content, if any of Fox's more adult fare will make it onto Disney Plus, and he said that Disney Plus will be all PG-13 or softer. I wonder if this will be their weakness that other streaming services can exploit. He followed that up by saying, I followed up asking if Fox's harder edge stuff would end up on Hulu and just got a smile, and that's a good assumption in return. So, I mean, dumb question to start, but does this surprise you at all? Did you ever think we were going to get a piece of R-rated content on Disney Plus?
No, never.
No.
No.
Tis the mouse.
No, ma'am.
You go under that umbrella, that's the end of it.
Yeah.
So I do want to run with one of the points he makes in his tweets, though. So that is one thing, because I was just talking before about how much Disney Plus has. That will be one of the only things that it is lacking, is R-rated fares. So how can other streaming services out there exploit that possible weakness?
I think it's something that streaming services will be able to exploit in a way to self-promote, but not in any way to hurt Disney. Disney's brand is built around that. That's why we all just said, no, we didn't think that was going to happen. It's not going to be a negative for Disney Plus at all not to be showcasing that content, especially when Disney owns such a huge stake in Hulu, is offering their combo packaging. They're fine. They're covered. And as long as my Alien films end up on one of the services, we're going to be okay.
Yeah, there's no reason to worry there. I don't understand. As you said before, we're not shocked about this. We knew this is what was happening. And the Hulu subscription being part of the Disney Plus subscription, I'm going to have both of those. And honestly, I'm going to start thinking about maybe not having Netflix anymore, because as we get into Netflix and their original content, they are losing by the day more and more of these shows that are syndicated, shows that you're going back and watching and putting on the background and not even noticing it. I'm seeing more and more. I go to Netflix, browse the catalog, go, I've either seen this or I don't care about this, and then I go right back on Hulu.
See, this is where I do think Netflix can kind of, dig their feet in the ground a little bit, because I mean, this is just because it's fresh in my mind right now, because I am currently watching season 3 of Glow, but there's a show with nudity in it that they can't have. So I can't cancel my my Netflix subscription if I want that kind of content. And the same goes for, stuff like Hill House. Disney Plus isn't going to make Hill House. So the more that Netflix, in my mind at least, for, and this is just based on my personal taste, it's not across the board, but the more content like that Netflix gives me that I definitely can't get on Disney Plus, that is going to sway me a little. I think
true.
it heavily depends on how they wind up beefing up Hulu. If that's where a lot of the Fox content goes, that is going to change the game, because at this point in time, the only thing that really is keeping me a Hulu subscriber is Handmaid's Tale.
Which is a very R-rated show. So you got right there an example of how Disney can kind of have their cake and eat it too. And that's, ultimately, if they're able to make content on the level of things like Glow, which I think is exceptional and Netflix's best show, so it's not really a fair comparison.
No, 100%. Yeah.
But if they can turn that kind of stuff out on Hulu, then what they've done there is actually probably pretty smart, because that's almost ensuring that people are going to get the multi-package. If you want both kinds of content, you got to get both streaming services.
But what if you have to pick now? Because I come back to my oversaturation. Because what if the American household cannot have every single streaming service and afford that and whatnot? And when it comes down to it, are they going to get Disney? Probably. If you're in like a normal American household, you have children and stuff of that nature, you're going to go with Disney. Hulu comes with that. You're going to go with Hulu. I'm a horror fan. I have Shudder. Then you have Amazon Prime, Criterion. Like, the list is just becoming greater and greater. And I think, again, for me, Netflix, based on what they output and when they start losing more and more contracts, they're kind of the last one that I'm going to go to. And they are the last one I go to right now.
Yep.
Not that I want to rag on Netflix and I care about it, because they do have content I love, as you said, Glow before. And their horror output recently has been great with things like The Ritual and stuff like that. But it's few and far between. And again, they're not getting you hyped about things. I don't know. Netflix also has this issue where things just drop. And either I don't know about it and I don't care about it, versus all these other, these other streaming platforms have figured out the marketing
Very good
aspect.
point.
They're
that
not
I
going to
haven't
be able
thought
to
of
get away with
recently.
that
No.
anymore.
No,
I think
absolutely
they
not.
could,
God, yeah.
because everybody was already on Netflix, and it'd be like, oh, what's this new thing? Because this is the one platform that everybody had. But that's not.
Like, can they get by
very
with
much
Stranger
changing.
Things? Like, that's literally the question now. Like, can
Right.
Netflix get by with Stranger Things?
Well, the other thing is they do keep canceling their most interesting content.
Clarita.
And they're Santa Clarita, the
Aw.
OA, and they're not doing it in a way where they're like, okay, so we have a 2 to 3 year contract on this show, so tell a good story for those times, and then we'll see about renewing.
Yeah.
They're just canceling it with no satisfaction on cliffhangers, which is really making people, including this one, angry. And like, what do I go to Netflix for the most now? I go there for New Girl. Who owns New Girl? Disney.
Uh-huh.
No, I mean, it's a good point, because why, if they're canceling so many shows into their runs and they're doing so in an abrupt manner, why would anybody donate all of their binge watching time to jumping into something new if the rug's going to be pulled out from under them? Also, that's the difference between like an epic juggernaut like Disney and something that's a little, it's got a rocky foundation right now, Netflix, as it sorts itself out
Well, they're
with Disney
still a
Plus
juggernaut,
coming
though.
out. But I'm sorry?
They're still a juggernaut.
Oh, of course. They're still huge, but
Right. No, no.
especially, again, after that Disney Plus panel, I do envision a future where there's a very good chance that this service kind of comes in and steamrolls the competition, because this is the only sure thing in my mind. And I do feel like it's a sure thing. When you look at all those brands lined up, they've got just about everything. Whereas Netflix is going to come to rely on its original content library. It's going to come to rely on its relationships with filmmakers like Martin Scorsese. And the landscape is changing. They don't know how it's going to all shake out. Whereas Disney has the financial backing and the properties to ensure that, let's say something comes out and it gets a lukewarm reception, they have the funds, they have the resources to keep it going and work out like whatever went wrong the last time around. Whereas Netflix is just going to drop something so they could try to find the next best thing ASAP to compete. I don't know. It just seems like Disney Plus might be the safer bet if you're looking for, just continuous content within the same show.
And just look at the fact that how many Disney Plus shows we already know are on the map and we know are coming, that they've promoted the heck out of, and the freaking service isn't even out yet.
Yeah.
And what do we know about Netflix? Literally, we know like basically 2 shows that we know they'll continually put out, and otherwise we just have to go on and see like, oh look, 17 seasons of Sugar Rush are out now. Great. Like
Every time I have to write about Disney Plus, I'm sort of in this position where I'm so blown away by the strategy, and I do find them a sort of frightening juggernaut in the industry right now.
Yeah.
So I look at their strategy like this horribly wonderful master plan that I just can't help but respect, but also fear a little bit. But they really Even something like what they're doing with their Marvel shows, which is to say that they're not setting up false expectations. We know that most of these will be a very short one-time thing that ties directly into the movies. So if you love the Marvel movies, you have to have Disney Plus. They're so smart, and that's just one example of the levels that they're sort of attacking on, and I'm terrified and in awe of them.
This is like Apple level. I mean, it's Apple level like monopolization in a way.
Right. Except Apple needs to get their streaming service together.
Well, yeah, I meant more the tech side. I'm not talking
I
about
totally
that
get
side.
you.
Sorry, I went back to business talk for a minute.
Well,
but
in case the original content goes to SHIT, at least I have my Apple Watch glued to my arm for the rest of my life.
That's the strangest silver lining I've ever heard, Perry.
Yep.
You are one of the sheep. You're literally one of the sheep.
It's a silver lining for them. At least they have that part of the business alive and thriving and
Perry,
basically flowing
consumerism at
through
its
my vein.
finest.
I'm very well aware, and I almost have no problem being part of that problem because their devices make my life easier. One point that Gary Dodd brings up in the live chat that we don't really discuss too often is you have so much in America. Most apps are not available in Europe, so a lot goes to Netflix. That is a very good point, and I am curious to see. I do know that Disney Plus recently released information regarding international plans and release dates, but I need to do my research on that. But that could be an interesting market for Netflix to tackle.
Look at the
if they
horror
focus on it
section
more.
on Netflix, and you'll see a ton of like Indonesian and Indian
Yes,
horror.
that's
Like it's
such a good
crazy
call.
that output that's been coming out of there. So like that's a good point because Netflix can monopolize on that because Disney Plus and those, they're going to keep an American base and it's going to be very American versus Netflix is now bringing all this other stuff in that we're not really getting elsewhere.
Here's a legit silver lining to all of this is that if Disney basically, owns all the broad content and wide appeal, maybe it'll encourage companies like Netflix to find, I don't know, bring more niche stuff out there, more challenging material. So let them corner the market on that as long as other companies try new, fresh things.
Well, I'm curious because I do think that one of the really good things about Netflix, even if they cancel these shows, they do keep developing really interesting content. And I'm curious to see what the content development process looks when the safety net is taken away. Yeah. They no longer have, like the Marvel shows were a sure thing, right? Like that was a safety net. That's gone. And as they're losing all their, The Office, all their sitcom safety nets, I would love to see them lean into the weird. Let's get avant-garde, Netflix.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
The show is winding down now, but we want to get to some of your live chat questions. In particular, a very important question from Jay Scott for real. And listen, Matt, you're going to be the first to answer this. You got to just tell me what comes to your head the second I say this question. Are you ready?
Sure.
To bread or not to bread? That is the question.
Bread? What? Is that the right answer?
Dorian approves.
Correct.
Bread?
All right.
I'm very pro bread.
A more serious
You
question.
must always get that bread.
Okay. All right.
Jay Scott for real backed us up with a legit monster question here,
Okay.
which we all love. What movie monster created via CGI would you like to see recreated with practical effects only?
Want to take this one first?
I'm gonna let you guys go first.
All right, I'll just say mine first because mine's the obvious one because I talk about it all the time. I am obsessed. Go on YouTube and just search the Mama motion test. I am absolutely obsessed with it. Javier Botet is an absolute creative monster-making genius. And what happened was they did that motion test and they basically, bathed his work over in CG. And I don't know, to me, it kind of loses that touch. So I didn't really love the look of the monster in Mama, but I think he is an incredible individual. And if you don't know his work, oh my, a resume down to the floor. Any movie that he's in, I guarantee you there's something worth watching in it.
Scary Stories. He was just in that.
Exactly.
So I guess for my answer then, if you're kicking it to me there.
Yes, please.
Yeah, just saying nothing and staring at me.
We do that all the time. It's fine.
I'm going to go with the Thing remake because same thing. They have all the test footage of amalgamation dynamics, they're called. Sorry, that's what I was looking at before. And they did it practical. They lived up to the Carpenter original. The Carpenter version, and they had all the effects, and they looked gnarly and nasty. And then they came in on the back end and just went with the post-production CGI, and it looks not great. And that is a big reason why I was so disappointed in it. And then to come out and say, "Oh yeah, we did the practical, we just didn't want to go with it full force," and it's like, then why did you remake the Thing? So go back, do it right this time, and give me the right one.
I'm into it.
I let you guys go first because I say they're huge cheats for both picking things that were done practically first and then painted. And now I get to call you out for it on air.
Right.
No. Being left only with pure CG, or mostly something we noticed when we were searching like some good answers is a lot of them are obviously part CG, part practical, which is, I think, how you often get the best modern monsters. But The Host is such a phenomenal monster movie, but the monster just looks, early 2000s slimy, goopy style CG where it just, you don't buy it. So I love the design. I would love to see that rendered, probably not in full practical, but in what I was just saying, a nice combo of practical and CG. And my twist answer to that is just because I want to see how ridiculous it would look, Cloverfield.
I was thinking Cloverfield too. Gigantic Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Wait, you kicked one more to me. I'll take it really quick.
Okay.
There's a movie called Grabbers. It's an Irish horror comedy.
You've spoken about that a lot.
I love it. It's basically like these people get stuck in a bar and they have to stay drunk to survive because the aliens can't eat them when they're drunk.
This is such a Matt Donato movie.
It's literally one of my favorite movies for that reason. I would love to see more practical in it because if I remember correctly, there are a lot of little Amblin, cutesy little animal or like aliens running around, and I would love to see them practical. So I'm gonna go with Grabbers as like, there you go.
That's
you got a real answer for me.
Yeah, that's a good one though.
Cool.
Okay, let's get one more question because Matt, while you're here, we have to go into the genre stuff. Hella
It's
Good
like I like horror or something.
is asking us, how much horror is enough horror for Doctor Strange 2? What kind of horror do you want?
Oh.
Yeah.
All of it.
This is a
I
good
mean,
question.
it's not going to go all of it because it's still going to be a Marvel movie and you're still going to have to get like the mass demographic. But I would love to see them push the envelope as much as they can for horror.
I wonder if
Derrickson can do it. We know Derrickson can. So.
yeah,
Sure do.
we know he can, but obviously we're not going to get, sinister levels of horror. I love Sinister so much, so I wouldn't mind that, but that's not going to happen again in the MCU. But I wonder if, and this is just because we were just talking about scary stories, my favorite scene of that is the Pale Lady one. I wonder if it's going to be, Doctor Strange using his abilities and almost having that, like visual trickery that makes you feel like trapped and out of control. I wonder if they can kind of teeter into horror using that.
I would love to see, because we know it's not going to be graphic or anything. I would love to see, based on the title, an embrace of full-out Lovecraftian horror and this sort of dawning realization of all these horrific things that are just waiting in the dark corners for you at any given moment. I think that's something you could do that's really powerful psychologically, but allows you to stay within a clean rating zone and still might keep you up at night.
Good call. I lie. One more question because I think
it.
this is the best panel to answer this question. Chris D'Onofrio is asking most underrated horror film of 2019 so far. He says The Hole in the Ground, and I second that. The Hole in the Ground is quite good.
It's underrated.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of
I've seen so many.
Okay,
know.
I have the obvious answer. Underrated is going to be Crawl, just because I think that should have been a summer smash hit, and it
I was
wasn't.
going to say what's underrated though, because critics
Yeah.
love
I mean,
Crawl.
critics loved it, but
Here's what I'll
I guess I'm
say.
talking box office underrated.
Don't let Tigers Are Not Afraid be the underrated of 2019.
all right.
It comes out in a few weeks, I think, on Shudder. It's already out in New York and LA. So go see Tigers Are Not Afraid. I mean, don't let that be my answer at the end of the year.
Oh, shit.
Have you seen it, Haley?
No.
I know.
Oh, you still haven't?
I'm dying to.
It's
Yeah.
like on my list, but for one reason or another, it keeps getting bumped down because of other obligations.
Yeah.
But I can't let what you just said happen.
Yeah, no,
Well,
don't
as
let
soon
that
as
happen.
it's on Shutter, it's on for me.
Also Climax?
Can't wait. Okay, so
Can
that's
I say
what
Climax?
That's what I was gonna say.
It's my
but
number
I-
one right now of the
I
year.
was like, what's underrated though? Because it's really like it's got great reviews. It's just nobody saw it.
Underrated. Maybe Escape Room. That's probably like a legit underrated.
Dude, I dug
Let
Escape
me look
Room.
up what the general consensus is on that
I
movie.
dug Escape
before I
Room,
say
and now
that.
like I'm looking at my letterbox just to see what I've logged recently, because all it's been is horror. Like all I've been doing is horror.
I would say a Happy Death Day to You as well
There
in
you
terms
go.
of
That's a good- yeah.
underperforming.
Those are two good
Those are
ones.
good
ones.
Escape Room has a 49% on Rotten
Yeah,
Tomatoes.
that's what I
Oh,
thought.
no.
That is like way
That's
low
some
for a movie of
clownery.
that
Yeah.
caliber. So I do not agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got Escape Room, Tiger's Not Afraid.
We both kind
You
of
both
said
ag-
Climax.
I think
Climax,
Happy
Climax.
Death Day to You, Crawl.
Hole in the Ground.
Hole in the Ground.
All right.
Yeah,
you have
let's tweet
so
about this
much
after.
homework.
Give me a minute
Yeah,
to look at my list because I got
Okay.
a ton.
And Grabbers. I'm gonna go see Grabbers too. You have a
I think
whole
that's on a
bunch of
streaming.
horror-
It's
Okay,
on
good.
streaming. Go find
Shudder?
Grabbers. No, not one of the regular ones.
All
I
right,
think
you
Hulu.
tell me later. We'll
Yeah.
fill you all in eventually, but write those down. That's your homework for tonight. I expect you to watch them all tonight and tell me about it on Movie Talk tomorrow. Before we say goodbye, I have to thank Matt Donato for coming to visit us today. We hope to see you again very soon.
I was going to say, thank you for having me, and I'm
Where
pleasure to be
can
back.
everybody find your work on the internet?
You can find me at Donatobomb, Donato. You see on the screen and stuff like that. On Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Also, Bloody Disgusting, Dread Central, Fangoria, /film. Just go down the list, and I don't know. I write everywhere.
Do check it out. Haley, as always, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Adam in the booth, Dorian in the live chat. You guys rock, as do all of you out there. Do not forget to like and share this episode of Movie Talk, and then tune in tomorrow, 3 p.m. PT Live, for a brand new one.